Guys getting rolled
And
out.
we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive Monday, January 5th. It actually feels like January 1st. Because it happened in the middle of the week last week, this feels like the official start of the new year. And we are here to break down a 6-game slate on DraftKings, 8 games overall. Some very weird injury news that has created the situation in Denver that is not very appealing as a basketball team, but is mildly appealing as a DFS situation. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter, us both being Josh Engleman, Chris Spags. First Monday deeper dive of the year. What's going on, man?
Glad to be here. I'm glad to ring in the Monday deeper dive season. I think there's another NFL slate next Monday, but then that's the last one. So Josh mentioned this morning on his show, it's a transition into this, NFL slowing down, NBA the only show in town for a little bit. Then you have MLB coming, but a lot of NBA attention still going on. So excited to be here for that stretch run. And I feel like this kind of slate, Josh, this is my kind of slate where we get a bunch of guys who should barely be playing in the NBA. They're going to be playing 30 plus minutes today in the last game of the slate.
Yeah, I can't imagine how many dudes you have projected for the Nuggets with like 1.45 fantasy points per minute. This is going to be a fun journey to figure out who you're getting to. I love it. I love it. I mean, I've got my 3 highest exposed guys are 3 guys that typically don't play a single second in real NBA games today.
Well, I will say one thing for me real fast, sorry to cut you off. With
you're
one
good.
player that's popped up, which I'm very glad to see that Stochastic is backing him. I was watching Hunter Tyson highlights today because I'm like, what's this guy got? Because he's the only one who rebounds a little bit. He jacks up threes. He had some decent games last year in particular, when the Nuggets were skeleton crew mode, but he kind of looks like Christian Brown too, just like, kind of scrawny, but also very fit white guy. But he's got some like nice dunks. He's Hunter Tyson. That's the play of the day. Nuke of the night, Hunter Tyson.
I have 10%, so I can't talk too much shit. Look, there's I got somebody else from the Nuggets that nobody else is getting to, so we'll see. Oh, it's gonna be one of those days, brother. One of those days. Let's get it started though with what could have been like an extra special fun game to watch, and is now just like a solidly fun game to watch. And that's the Knicks and the Pistons. 1.5 point line here, 231 total. And the reason it's not perfect is because of the amount of dudes that are out on both sides. We're not getting like the full rip of what this game could really be. We have no Josh Hart. I don't say this because it's funny, but like we don't have Landry Shamet. That is a guy that plays from time to time. I don't want to be too rude about it, but he is also out. For the Pistons, no Tobias Harris, no Jalen Duren. But that does get us to the number one chalk play for today. $3,800 B-ball Paul Reed, 85% owned on DraftKings, 85% optimal. Assuming that he maintains his spot in the starting lineup, which he just had, I don't see this one changing all that much. He's in every lineup I've made.
Yeah, he just started yesterday, played 30 minutes in that spot. Softer matchup on paper, I think, at least by a little bit today. Though, frankly, with how Cleveland's played this year, maybe not, but should be a slightly softer matchup going against the Knicks front court. And for Paul Reed, producing 1.3 fantasy points a minute, not quite a Jalen Duren level rebounder, but about as close to that you can get with about 17.5 rebounds per 100 possessions. So Paul Reed's the kind of guy, like Day'Ron Sharp last week. I feel like these are the guys you want to get to when they are starting and super cheap, and they are going to sort of be guaranteed a certain amount of minutes. That's Paul Reed. So I think the Denver stuff, also pretty interesting value, but Paul Reed, to me, he was coming down for me in one of the sim runs where they were like half updating data, things hadn't fully caught on. I was like, I don't think Paul Reed should come down. And it seems like now he's not. Like, he's one of the best plays in the slate and a guy that you should feel pretty good about as long as he starts again like he did yesterday.
Yep, I don't know how to get away from it at 3,800. Too good of a per minute guy. Needs so little fantasy points at that ownership to just be the guy that I will have him. I mean, 66% boom percentage. Can't beat that one at all at 3,800. But we do have some ownership coming in for the rest of the game. Unsurprisingly, it's being funneled towards pay up options, which is kind of what everything is going to do because of Paul Reed and some of the stuff for Denver. So Cade Cunningham is projected for 20% ownership at 10,500. Karl Anthony Towns is about 15 at 8,500. So is Brunson at 9K. And then only Isaiah Stewart is getting double digits after that. How are you feeling about the rest of these guys? As of right now, for me, I'm kind of just swapping around these pay up options, whether it's Cade, whether it's Towns, whether it's Brunson, because I just have that much salary to do it.
Yeah, exact same page as you. I mean, with Cade, very easy to get to him. He's not usually a guy I have, super highly projected because Duran's been so good this year. But now with Duran off the court, Tobias Harris off the court for as much as that matters, a little bit easier for me to stomach getting to Cade, along with just the fact that you basically have infinite money on the slate if you're playing any of the value plays. So Cade, I got in like 23% of my lineups, Fields at 20 and change. I think that's about where I would want to be for today. Not any more, not any less. Just getting some amount there. Same thing for the Knicks too. Towns, I feel like gains a little bit more from having, Josh Hart not in the picture, with just slightly more rebound upside, but not enough to become a different play. It feels like they're already appropriately priced at this point for Josh Hart to be out. And like you mentioned with Shamet, who to his credit, Shamet was playing really well before he did get hurt. Probably the best Landry Shamet, heater, kind of off the bench ball that he's played. These guys have been out for a while now. Josh Hart, even at this point, out a week and change. So like they're kind of priced where they have to be for it. So mixing these guys in, fine, but they're not a priority. Like, I think to me, there's other pay up options that, relative to a slate where you could afford anybody that are more of a priority.
This slate is not really set up for it anymore. Tony Bradley has been waived by the Pacers. I'll waive too. There's one guy in this game that is a bit of a wild card, but has become significantly less necessary now that everything has happened. Do you have any interest in the flat min 3K point guard, shooting guard eligible Dennis Jenkins, who was resuscitated last time out?
I know you talked about him on the strategy show, and I looked up and I didn't realize, because, I'm not usually following basketball that closely on a football Sunday, that he had a 23-point second quarter yesterday, filling in for all the minutes that they have left, earned a little more minutes because of that. But, that does seem like an outlier outcome to me. I think if you were going to be the value play on the slate with nothing else better, I was willing to go there a little bit. But Stochastic dropped his minutes a little too. He's down to now 15 minutes projected. Certainly if he plays the higher end, he's produced 0.95 fantasy points a minute this year. I feel like he's looked good when you've had guys missing, but there's no guarantee that he gets that kind of run. Definitely no guarantee he puts up 20 plus real life points in a quarter today. So I think for Dennis Jenkins, he's the kind of guy to me that would have looked okay if there were no other value, but now that we have value, I didn't really get. Actually, I don't think I got there at all in my top 150.
I'm very interested in him. I don't know if I'm going to end up getting to him, because to me, I think there's a chance there's a coin flip opportunity here between, like, they only play one of Sasser or Jenkins. It feels like one of those situations where they just want to reward him for what he did yesterday. I don't know if that happens. The fact that he closed for the final 8 minutes, and they were like, they held on. What if he just plays 24 minutes today again, and Marcus Sasser doesn't see the floor? He's at least, like, he's one of the guys we're going to have a bunch of dudes on this slate today that are 1% owned or less. He's one of those guys I'd put on the list of, like, if I had 10% of him when I got to lock, I'd be pretty cool with it. I don't need to stand, but I see the path.
It's about how you deploy it, though. Like, I think if you're playing him with the Denver cheap guys, I would say that almost defeats the purpose of playing him. Where, I think if you're playing him now as a lever against those guys, against Hunter Tyson, against Strother, I think that makes more sense to me, because I just think, like, as a play, like, he looks like a worse play, especially with the minutes Stochastic's giving him now. He just looks like a worse play than I think he would have this morning. So I think that's my issue with it, is, like, as a pivot, sure. And I think that happens a lot where, like, the plays that looked good before all the injury, crush of value opens up, those plays end up looking better because they were still a good play. They just kind of got forgotten about. But now he looks like less good of a play. I think he's mostly there as a lever.
Yeah, if he wasn't flat 3K, I don't think this would be much of a discussion. But the fact that he's the min, I'm just going to put a pin in it for a bit. Do you have anything else you want to mention here about the rest of these guys in this game? Because I find the Beef Stews, the Bridges, the Assault, like, I don't have much of a take for the rest of those guys.
I mean, for Isaiah Stewart, I feel like he's your obvious sort of leverage against Paul Reed. If there were foul trouble for Reed, if Stewart just got hot and they wanted to go a little bit smaller, they could go that way too. And, and I think Stewart too is one of those guys that projects pretty well still. 5.5x value for me, a little bit less than that with the stochastic projection. But I got him in 11% of lineups, fields at 12. I just think he shouldn't be a guy that you want to get none of, because if there's anything that happens that's weird with Paul Reed, Stewart probably benefits, even though he's priced appropriately for it. But yeah, I'm with you for the most part. Those guys that we talked about on Detroit, the few guys on the Knicks, really the top pay up options. That's sort of it in this game.
FanDuel side looks pretty similar. Even on FanDuel, $4,200 center Paul Reed, 66% owned. 2 out of every 3 lineups built on FanDuel, Paul Reed is the center. That leaves 34% for the rest of them, which we could touch on as we go through it. Cade's 15. Asar Thompson is actually 15. Good positional eligibility here. And then Beef Stew is at 10, but Brunson only 9. He's 9,400. Karl Anthony Towns just 8 at 9,200. So similar vibes here, not as much on the pay up end.
Yeah, surprised to see Paul
plenty
Reed.
More to talk about.
Paul Reed, I feel like as a center on FanDuel, I feel like you don't usually see the cheap center be this optimal, but 70% optimal rate for guy at 4,200. I mean, not a lot of pay up options on the slate, but I mean, it does to me also kind of make like the Embiid tier kind of appealing if that much of the field's going to be playing Paul Reed. So I'd be with the field on Paul Reed, a little bit above it, and then really try to pay up if I'm not going Paul Reed's way.
It's a very interesting dynamic that you don't typically see on FanDuel. Mm-hmm. This is rare for what we usually have. We'll hit some centers as we keep it moving. Let's go to game number 2. Bulls Celtics. Not exactly a great real life basketball game. Celtics actually good. Chicago, not so much. 10.5 point line, 236 total. It's another place where we're able to funnel some of our savings. Jaylen Brown, 9,800, small forward only, 25% owned. Kind of falls off there after that. Buzelis, 5,900, 10% owned. Derek White is 10% owned. Everybody else in this game, single digit owned. There's not much love coming in here. Still no Josh Giddey for the Bulls. Kobe White is back, but no Zach Collins or Jalen Smith now for the Bulls. Everybody that's typically available for the Celtics is. You finding anything interesting here?
I think Kobe White's one of those guys where on a slate where it feels like every lineup's going to be pretty doopy. At 5% owned, a guy is producing, just shy of 1.3 fantasy points a minute with Giddey off the court this year. And granted, it's not the biggest sample size yet, only about 350 possessions, but like he does create usage, does get assists, and Giddey's one of the biggest blockers from him hitting the upside, I feel like game to game. I'm willing to take that shot on Kobe White, and I played him with Giddey, enough lately that I think going there without Giddey just feels like kind of a natural move with him being even cheaper than, or I guess same price as Trey Jones on the slate. But I'm with you. This game, I think ownership wise, not getting a ton of anything. Buzelis, I got at 15%. He's the guy who takes a decent rate uptick from not having Giddey out there. Vucevic feels like you're getting sort of more guaranteed center minutes of them being down a few bigs. So I think he's an okay play, but he's kind of priced pretty aggressively at this point. But Jaylen Brown, the upside's there. I kind of feel a little point chasey with him. The fact that he put up the 50 points over the weekend, now he's going to be 20% owned. But he's been good all year, putting up a 36% plus usage rate, 1.4-ish fantasy points per minute. I mean, he's really been, I think, very good. And I know our pal Steven Levitz said in my chat this morning that he felt like it was the Jaylen Brown getting snubbed in player of the month made him push his usage a little bit higher in that spot. I don't know if that's the case, but I think he's got that kind of upside game to game, especially against a team like Chicago, because he's just putting up so many shots and there's really nobody else taking usage away from him at this point. I just feel like he's got that upside anytime he wants to, if he really focused on it.
Right now, I'm right around the field on Jaylen Brown. He's been, I did not expect this this year from Jaylen Brown. So kudos to him. That's kind of fun. I have someone more than Jaylen Brown though. I've got a little interest in Vooch here. 7,700 center only. Minutes have been up with this center turmoil behind him lately. Now they're both out. I can't imagine they're super excited to send Lachlan Ulbrich to the front lines as much as they can. We got him in for 30.5 minutes. If that creeps to 33 or 34 in a competitive game at relatively minimal ownership. He's a guy that I'm willing to take a swing on. I don't have a ton here in this one. I like what Kobe White could be if he gets real minutes. I'm nervous that he does, just coming back after missing, 3.5 games. Not like he played a ton prior to that, missed most of the beginning of the season. So if they're tentative with him, it makes me a little nervous. If he can just get out there and play 29, I think that looks a little under-owned for him for sure. There's not much else in the rest of this game, though. It's for as many people that are out for Chicago, I thought something would be here, and it's not.
Yeah, it's not a bad total for Boston in particular, but the game too, 237.5. I think it wouldn't be crazy to me if that you had a chalky lineup with, one or two pieces from this game be a thing that wins tonight. And yeah, to me, I'm getting enough of it that I feel okay about that stand.
I took that sip of water at a poor time.
Never a bad time to hydrate.
There's always a bad time to hydrate. What if I've already hydrated? I could die from drinking too much water. That's a thing.
Sure. If you're rolling right now and you've been drinking too much water, drinking gallons of water, then yeah, we might have a problem.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm going to be pledging a frat anytime soon. So I think I'm going to be all right. 9,900 for Jaylen Brown on FanDuel, 25% owned. Basically the same scenario as it is on DraftKings. Peyton Pritchard, a little bit more popular on the FanDuel side at 6,800. Both he and Derek White are in that 10 to 15 range. And then it falls off 8 to Buzelis. 2 is the most to anybody else in the game. There is nothing going on in this one on the FanDuel side out of the big 3 from Boston. Dude, I'm so excited to see what Boston does in the next month. It's probably the team I'm most interested in of the entire league.
Well, you were ahead a lot of the stuff with, their futures. Like now it seems like they're cementing themselves as top of definitely a chaotic East so far, but you were early on that. And I feel like people are catching up, and then Tatum's talking about maybe being back in March, and which seems implausible, but that bet's looking better. I'm sure you're getting some EV if nothing else.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's good. That's going to be great. As long as nothing happens to, as long as Jaylen Brown doesn't go down or Derek White, if they play the string out relatively healthy, that'll be a fantastic, positive EV bet by the time we get there. I just want to see if they bring somebody in. I don't care what Tatum is. You bring Jason Tatum back and he plays 20 minutes. It's better than playing Hugo Gonzalez or Josh Minot or something. He doesn't have to be Jason Tatum. He just has to be better than everybody else that was playing. I don't think that's a high bar.
Yeah, he doesn't look like Bat Boy like Jordan Walsh. That's what you mean to Jordan Walsh.
I love that Jordan Walsh goes from starting and playing 8 minutes a game to off the bench plays 30. Basketball's so stupid sometimes.
Yeah, that 4 spot for the Celtics is really the worst experience of the world, because I'm like, Minot, beginning of the year, I was playing him a lot. Then they jerk him around. That's how Jordan Walsh is going nuts every game. Why? And then he gets jerked around for no reason. Then Hugo's coming in. He doesn't really do anything. But it's like they just keep putting different guys in there, and I can't keep track of it. And it seems like sometimes they're good, but it's a frustrating spot. But they're a good team.
Apparently not. Kyle Craig, Celtics are not contenders. Just the number 1 net rating in the East. Second best offense in basketball. I don't know. Have the ability to make a legitimate trade at the deadline with a $20 million salary they don't give a fuck about and picks. I don't see anything else in the East that looks good.
They also
I don't think they're going to be Oklahoma City, but I don't. That's not what I need.
So I was going to say, I feel like they kind of match up well with OKC, at least conceptually. The center spot they're deficient in right now, but the shooting, the defense, they can't throw as many bodies at it, but they can throw good bodies at it.
Yeah, I mean, they would need 40-minute a game healthy Tatum to really be in sniffing distance of that one, but I don't see what they're supposed to worry about in the East, and they have bullets in their gun to make themselves better. I don't know. Looks pretty good to me. I'm glad they're in the East. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made that bet. Because they wouldn't be winning the West, that's for sure. West be hard, man. Too much good over there. Another team in the news right now. Atlanta Hawks. Toronto Raptors. Evidently, the Washington Wizards may be a destination for one Trae Young. I don't get it, but whatever. You know who is getting some love today? Jalen Johnson with no Trae Young around 50% owned. 10K power forward, the pay up du jour for today. I totally agree with that. We also have 30% ownership coming in the Scotty Barnes, 20 more for RJ Barrett, a little over 10 for Brandon Ingram. I think we'll probably be on the same page for the Jalen Johnson one, but I don't know what to do with this Toronto side.
Yeah, it's a lot of ownership coming for Barnes still. I mean, and it seemed a little bit high to me earlier today. I figured the Denver stuff would kind of knock the ownership down a little bit, and now it's gotten to a little more palatable range. But earlier today, it looked like you'd have the Barnes, Ingram, quickly Barrett all around 20, maybe 30% owned. But I think it's settling on Barnes is fair. Like you do have the money to spend for Barnes. He has the same position as Jalen Johnson, who is going to be deservedly mega chalk, just not really priced correctly on DraftKings. Though FanDuel, I think, more than priced correctly. But for Barnes, he's a pivot point to that. He could put up similar ranges of outcomes as Jalen Johnson. You could play him with Jalen Johnson, and I think get more unique for that because they are both just power forward. So I like Barnes a good amount, but really to me, it's Barnes and Jalen Johnson that are the priority plays here. Getting Barrett back in, I just feel like these guys, they're definitely a little bit softly priced for Barrett, but Barrett's playing a full allotment of minutes. He's also not been the best contributor to this group. So like I'm not super stoked to get there. Quickly is a worse player with Barrett on the court. And you have Pirtloff, but these guys I think are sort of all okay. But at least Barnes and Jalen Johnson, like they're both a little bit cheap and they have the massive ceiling. So I think they're priorities.
So I've got 60% Jalen Johnson right now, just to get that out of the way. He looks great, and I'm going to have him, and I have the salary to do it. I never would have expected being almost dead neutral to like Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, and Brandon Ingram in this scenario, but I am. Just shy of 30% of Barnes, right at 20 of Barrett, right at 12 of Ingram. I assumed I would just have one ridiculous stand on one of these guys and then be like miles under the field on either Barrett or Barnes. Apparently, I'm just holding hands with the field. So I guess they are all pretty reasonable. Like we don't have any real leverage on them. Our optimal rates are spot on their ownership numbers. I think these guys are just like exactly where they're supposed to be today. And I never have like a feel of, oh, today's going to be an RJ Barrett day or today's going to be a Brandon Ingram day. Like I can't sift through these dudes. I just kind of have to have some of them.
Yeah, they could all spike any given day. Like Barnes, you have the best shot of that because he contributes in every category. But Ingram is, shooting really well overall. Actually, no, it's not. His shooting's come down a little bit. He's under league average now for true shooting, but it feels anecdotally like he's shooting really well. And he's not, playing poorly in terms of like ill-advised shots in any way. So I think for Ingram, there's always that upside. Quickly can contribute in a bunch of categories. Barrett's the one I just feel like he shouldn't really be on this team. Like I don't know what he's contributing these guys don't already have. But they are all cheap. Like they're all kind of cheap for a situation where they're all back in, but I feel like the algorithm has not found the right pricing level for him.
Any interesting Colin Murray Boyles? I know we have a lot of value now, but got the movement into the starting lineup, 4,200 power forward center, just 5% owned.
I'm not there today. I feel like he would have been a better value if we didn't have other situations open up. So maybe you just play him and Dennis Jenkins, and that's your two value guys. That would have looked a lot better if we didn't get everything else opening up. But, he's starting. I think that's okay. He's not been a great contributor. He does a little bit of everything, a little bit of rebounds, a little bit of assists, a little bit of usage. But, he's not even a Mukulishvili levels, I think, in terms of a fantasy production yet. So not really excited to be there. But I think if you just play lineups sometimes that, fade that super popular chalk and display guys that would have been chalk, and if that game didn't exist, I think that's the kind of play that he makes sense in.
Yeah, I thought I could get to a little bit more of him. He showed up in one random lineup for me. Only other guy that I'm getting sort of anything over the field in this game is Dyson Daniels, point guard, shooting guard eligible. He's 8% owned at 6,800. I have 16%. I typically get a little bit more of Dyson Daniels when Trae Young is out, which is weird because I don't like him. But in DFS, apparently I do. Any thoughts on Dyson Daniels?
I got him the last slate that he played well, and I was like, oh, this is nice. A nice surprise that he was actually good. But and that can happen sometimes. I think overall the rates have not been as beneficial to him this year because you have other guys there that are taking usage away with Alexander Walker, with Jalen Johnson being a little bit more involved across every facet. Porzingis on the team. Like I think there was a portion earlier this year where I'd be doing my streams and people in the chat be like, you got to play Dyson Daniels to Trae Young out. And it's like, I don't think that's the case this year quite as much as it was last year. He would fill in and get the defense and also starts to get his shot up more. But I think, as an 8% play, he's kind of like a Kobe White. I have more Kobe White, but like just at a price tag where I don't think people are going to get to quite as much. And there's definitely some opportunity because of that, star point guard for both guys, being out. So I don't mind Dyson Daniels on that front, but like for me, it's Jalen Johnson or bust on the Hawks.
I agree. I have one share of a Kongwu, which I could easily go away. I don't have any other Hawks other than my aforementioned Dyson Daniels. Let's check the FanDuel side of this one. This strikes me as a game that's going to look quite a bit different, but I don't know. Oh, it looks quite a bit different. RJ Barrett is your highest owned guy on FanDuel at 20.9% ownership. Jalen Johnson is 20.7. So 30 percentage points less or whatever it ends up being. Completely different play on FanDuel in comparison to DraftKings from an ownership perspective. Still a great play. Jalen Johnson's still absolutely someone you're prioritizing on FanDuel, but not to the same way that you would be doing it on DraftKings. And then it falls off a lot after that. Scotty Barnes, sub 10%. Brandon Ingram, sub 10%. Minimal ownership after that. So very different experience for this game, depending on which site you're playing on. That's why you should be using the tools at Stokastic.com. You don't have to overthink it. It's all just presented to you here in the data hub, and then you could take it straight down the path. Maybe you want to build your lineup by hand in a single lineup sim. You can do that. Or generate a full contest. Use the full set of sims and then build out your entire portfolio of lineups. You could do that for both of these sites, and you'll have some unique outputs. The entire sim package will handle it all for you. Click the link in the description to sign up. Man, that was a great read.
Really felt it in your soul there too.
It's just sometimes you're able to slide right in. Pause. Phoenix Suns. Houston Rockets. I got some stuff I like here quite a bit, so I'm excited to talk about this one. This line is 8.5. We're in Houston. Now, unique injury setups for today. Got some bodies out. Mark Williams is probable today, as is Grayson Allen. Didn't see all of that coming this morning. Booyah is out with a concussion, by the way. Alperen Şengün out, right ankle sprain. And then we're waiting on another piece of news here. Steven Adams, questionable right ankle sprain. If he happens to be out, might be Clint Capella season. As of right now, about 15% ownership to KD, just shy of that for Amin Thompson and Tari Eason. And then nobody in this entire game above 5%. How are you feeling about this game? Because I have slightly more of some of these guys.
Yeah, Durant, I'm with the field on. Kind of thought I would get more based upon the fact that he does. You get a pretty big usage uptick without having Şengün out there, which you would assume anecdotally, but rate wise goes to about 32.4% usage from normally being about 26.5. That's a pretty big jump up. But Amin Thompson also takes a pretty big jump up, gets to about 25.5% usage compared to a normal 20.5. So both those guys getting more shots up. I ended up getting a lot more of Amin Thompson's side of things, where I'm getting him at 40% compared to getting Durant just under 20. But I think they both are sort of the obvious winners here. Eason and Reed Shepherd, okay plays, but I think Durant and Amin Thompson, I would like to even that out a little bit, maybe get like 33% or both, or 25 to 33. Because I'm real heavy Amin Thompson, but I think they both clearly gain a lot of opportunity from having Şengün off.
Boy, you got there eventually. So I've got 30% of Kevin Durant and 26% of Amin Thompson. So you were like walking your way through it, and then you're like, yeah, I'd basically like to get your exact exposures to these two guys. It's like,
yeah, you're a genius. I was just trying to get on your wave. Like, then I got there.
Yeah, because you said you're I love your amount of Amin Thompson. I think he looks great for this game. I typically tend to like Amin Thompson as well. I love KD for all the reasons you mentioned earlier. The fact that Alperen Şengün is not here. I certainly like the fact that he's going up against Phoenix. I mentioned it earlier on the strategy show. Ryan Stubbs is sort of mentioning it here too. KD be petty. This is the type of thing that I actually think he would care about, like smacking these dudes around. It just strikes me as a game he would get up for like an extra 5%. I don't know. Some people can do that. Like if Ryan Dunn had a revenge narrative, I don't think it's going to matter as much. Can't really dictate the game. KD can do what he wants if this is the type of game that he's pissed off for. Doesn't make me do anything, but it certainly makes me feel better when I have a 2x stand on him. And that's what I have. the fact that he's shooting guard, small forward eligible is just a bonus in this spot. So yeah, I'm 2xing both Durant and Amin Thompson right now. The question becomes, if we don't get Steven Adams yesterday, or whenever the hell that game, 2 days ago, when they played sans Steven Adams, sans Alperen Şengün, 27 minutes for Clint Capella. Clint Capella is 4K. Now, he is not going to look as good as Paul Reed today. That's just not possible, even if this happens. But he is going to look pretty good, and it's going to really mix up this center spot. Do you assume you'd have a lot of Capella in this scenario?
Yeah, I was thinking exactly what you said about him just not being as good of a play as Paul Reed, but I think being the guy you get to, in addition to Paul Reed, or in lineups where if you have any where Reed's not making it in, but yeah, if he's going to play 25 plus minutes at 4K price tag and he produces 1.1 fantasy points a minute normally, and this spot against Phoenix too, it's like Phoenix on a back-to-back. A guy like Mark Williams, I think he's going to be right in position to get the kind of stats that he needs as well. I think it's a good spot for Capella. So yeah, if you get Adams out, I mean, I think he'll have enough flexibility because of all the nuggets that you have. I'm pretty confident I will at the very least. But I think in general, like, you got to be ready to swap. I think Capella would become a guy that would normally be, 50% owned on the slate, 40, somewhere in that range. Because Paul Reed's so owned, it comes out a little bit less. But like, he'd be really highly owned if he were available at lock. And, we don't know that yet. But if we do know that, Capella and Reed lineups, boy, you could afford anything with that.
What a weird set of rotations, and so hard to read into, because Şengün gets hurt immediately. There is no Adams no matter what. Capella then plays 11 minutes in the first quarter, the end of the second quarter like a typical starter, a huge stint at the beginning of the third, and then doesn't play again. He played 27 minutes in 3 quarters. I don't think he takes that kind of first quarter rotation again. I doubt he closes. So something in that 22, 23 minute range makes a lot of sense. Figure he comes in the 20, 25% owned range. I think he's going to look pretty good.
I think you could close
with
if you're running hot.
More.
Like, if you're playing well and they weren't at risk of getting hit, pack a Capella kind of thing, I think he could close, at least replace some closing minutes, but then get subbed out for parts.
I think they just close with Jabari Smith at the 5.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
They close with some combination of Durant, Amin Thompson, Jabari Smith, Tari Eason, Reed Shepherd, Dorian Finney-Smith. They don't need Clint Capella's solo skill at that point, I don't think. Because it's not like Phoenix is closing with anybody you give a fuck about. It's Iguodala or Mark Williams or whatever they're trying to do. I think they would probably just go to Jabari Smith. They've got enough size. Which is a little scary about going to Capella. But at the same time, he could also close if it's working. Either way would work. And at 4K, you've got some wiggle room. But that's the big swing piece. If Adams is out, obviously we're going to see an increase to Capella. Does that make you like anything else?
No, I think Adams doesn't contribute enough statistically where I would have anybody getting a major boost in projection. I guess Tari Eason, his minutes limit seemingly getting lifted, where he can get above 25 is a positive. So I could see maybe getting him a little bit more, but I think the Capella impact would probably be the biggest, because nobody else produces well enough where we get a big enough minutes uptick.
34 minutes out of Eason in that last one. That's a big number for him, man. I'm surprised he's not back on the injury report. Sorry, Tari. Didn't mean it.
He watches every show. He's going to be so sad.
That's what I heard. Somebody told me that. I can't remember who it was.
Daryl Morey.
Daryl Morey before he left. Yeah. We both got there. I mean, he's gonna he's at least, if that happens, he's gonna get projected for another minute and change, and he's gonna go from a 12% owned guy to a 20% owned guy. So that will happen. But yeah, keep your eye on it. That is an actual piece of news that matters. Do you have a single share of someone from Phoenix?
Got 1 share of Devin Booker, 2 shares of Dylan Brooks. And Brooks I've had above market this entire year, but even today I only have him at 30.1. Stochastic has him at 28.1. They're just, they're pretty healthy at this point, getting Grayson Allen back in, having Gillespie and Booker in. So yeah, Phoenix looks tough. It's a tough matchup, tough total at 107 implied points for Phoenix. And I just don't know what they're priced for. Like Booker doesn't even look close to playable to me, really. Dylan Brooks, I think, is the closest. And even he's not, a traditional 5X value.
Oh, this should be good. What the hell is James Dolan's tweet here? I see he uses the word copacetic, so this should be good. I've never seen a locker room more copacetic. Leon can always overrule me, but I don't see us making a big change. We've got to build up this group. We can win the championship. James Dolan on the Knicks Giannis rumors. It was probably more copacetic when Dante DiVincenzo was there and not Cat, but I'm just guessing.
Well, they were linked to DiVincenzo in like rumors a couple of weeks ago. Where they're like, oh, the Knicks might be in the hunt for DiVincenzo. Like, oh, okay, that's nice. After they soured him on the team and made him really angry about getting rejected.
Yeah, he makes barbecues at Rick Bronson's house look a little bit more awkward now. I'm with you on Phoenix. I have 3 shares of Devin Booker, which I guess is a bit of a stand for the 2% owned Devin Booker. And that's it. I didn't get a share of Dylan Brooks. They would be the 2 guys I would want to get to. That's for sure. But yeah, these guys feel totally impossible to get to. They're in a bad spot, in a bad matchup. And I don't think a single person is priced well. They're not even priced like average.
Yeah.
Let's see how it looks on the FanDuel side. Maybe things are a little bit different on FanDuel for this game than they are on the old DraftKings. And as we look at the ownership, we see 17% ownership to Amin Thompson, 17% ownership to Tari Eason, about 10 for KD, and then everybody else sub 10%. So while it is slightly higher on the lesser Houstons, the highest owned guy for Phoenix is Dylan Brooks at 3.8%. These guys are not owned. So we move on. Hornets Thunder, which, sounds exactly like it sounds. Unappealing. Just 2 teams that aren't the same in talent by a pretty significant margin. 15.5 point line, 234 total. Brandon Miller probable, Con Knipple probable, Moussa Diabate probable, Tijan Salan probable. That had a chance to be very, very interesting for Charlotte earlier today when they weren't all probable tags. They were Q tags. Still no Mason Plumlee and Ryan Kalkbrenner. For the Thunder, Alex Caruso is sitting out with low back soreness, or as I like to call it, playing the Hornets. No Isaiah Hartenstein, no Jalen Williams with a Y, no Ousmane Dieng. 17% ownership for Shea, 12 for J Dub. The highest owned Charlotte guy is Diabate at 4, but otherwise you're kind of only paying up for the 2 of the 3 best guys from the Thunder. There's nothing here, man.
Yeah, Diabate, I got 7%. I don't think that's a real stand in any meaningful way, given the field's at 4. But, it's something that I got positive ownership on for myself in a game where I really got none. But Diabate's playing well, just shy of 1 fantasy point per minute. Getting back out there without Kalkbrenner, without Plumlee, a positive, even though you do have PJ Hall, you do have Salon in today. So they can go other ways at center, but Diabate's played 30 plus minutes a good amount of times. We'll see coming off the injury if that impacts things at all. But I feel like the minutes have been more reliable for him with Kalkbrenner and Plumlee out than I expected. So I'm willing to get there a little bit, even though obviously you're going to normally play setters at different price points. And the OKC side, I got SGA, 11% of my lineups fields at 18. He was in some of my highest ROI lineups, so I think that there are places that he works well. But it feels like you need Charlotte to keep up. If you're going to get SGA hitting enough of a ceiling, you need that 4th quarter run for him, and that's not always guaranteed when they are 15.5 point favorites. So for SGA, I think an okay play. Didn't really get to Jalen Williams much. I'm at 3%. The field's at 12. This game is just kind of a non-factor for me, though. I am curious, Josh, in your take on Charlotte, because I feel like people have kind of anointed them as like a young team on the rise, and I do think they have more talent here, but I presume you still hate them and think they're in no man's land, right?
Yeah, the future is brighter than it was, but it's dim right now. Like, what happens with I like LaMelo Ball, but obviously that experience hasn't been fantastic over the past few years. what does he become? Do they fumble that and he like leaves for nothing? Because that is possible. Brandon Miller seems interesting. I love Con Knipple. I think Diabate is a great second center. I think Kalkbrenner and Diabate are like a great little two-man team of cheap center for a while. Zion James is probably like a rotation guy in the like homeless man's Lou Dort mold for the future. But I mean, if they don't figure out the LaMelo thing correctly, I don't think any of it matters.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's also too, like, I'm looking at Brandon Miller's numbers. Like in my brain, he's like, he's such a great shooter. And he shoots 8 threes a game, but only 52% true shooting for him. Like that's got to get better. Knipple's coming in, lighting it up like you'd expect him to be. And he's actually done a lot more than I would have thought in terms of the rebounding and assists when they get to the smaller groups. I feel like Brandon Miller, like showing more in terms of, hitting the rim a little bit more aggressively this year. But if he's not hitting threes, I feel like the thesis of the whole thing kind of falls apart.
Yeah. Look, they're going to have a bunch more bites at the apple because they're not going to be good anytime soon. So maybe they can get lucky, get in the top 3 this year, get another real body and move forward. But for me in this game, I got 26% of Shea. It fits the same theme as before of I have a lot of salary to spend. I got 10% of J-Dub, 6 of AJ Mitchell, 4 of Diabate, a lone share of Chet Holmgren. It was like kind of weird in this one if he just goes crazy. Like it's never nuts if he has 7 blocks today. So just gonna put that out there for a second. But yeah, it's just we have some spots that are super obvious, and then outside of those spots that are super obvious, I just want to get all the best players from the other teams. That's really where I stand right now. If you're not on one of those crazy value spots, I'm just getting Shea, Amin Thompson, Kevin Durant. Who am I missing in this conversation? Jaylen Brown, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Brunson, Cat. That's just all of my lineups are just going to be mix and matched, chalky value plays, and then 3 or 4 of the best dudes that exist in other games. That's what's happening here.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I got a little bit of, got a little bit of Diabate. Also got a little bit of AJ Mitchell. Like, but that's, you're right. Like, you're getting 5 to 10% because, the sim is sort of giving you these guys mixing in and out as opposed to just the, the spike kind of pay up option guys. But, yeah, like AJ Mitchell, I feel like on another slate, I think it'd be an okay play. He played 27 minutes yesterday. But yeah, on this slate, he's just literally just a guy, and honestly, a guy that might not actually be beneficial to play.
15% ownership for Shea on FanDuel, 15% ownership for J-Dub on FanDuel, 3.5 to AJ Mitchell is the next highest mark of anybody in the game. And the highest owned Charlotte Hornet on the FanDuel side is Brandon Miller at 1.03.
It's brutal.
Oof. What do you do with that?
Chat's going off on OKC being overrated, and I feel like I think, yeah, Jake's a good guy, but I don't know where he's going off. He seems to really hate OKC.
I just don't understand how people can be dumb like that. Like, they're the defending champs. They've got a net rating 4.2 points higher than anybody else in the league. They're the number 1 defense by 6 points. And they're never healthy. These guys are in and out the whole time. They don't give a fuck. They're still beating the shit out of everybody. They're still the 5th best offense everything's great. What else could you want? If that's not good, nobody's good. Like, yeah, they might not win the title. That could happen. Coin flip, whatever, but they're clearly amazing.
I think the second that they weren't on that 7-3-9 kind of pace, 73-9 kind of pace, people were immediately like, they suck, and it's like they could coast to 60, they could really. I mean, they might do that. That seems kind of like what the pathway is for them.
Yeah, they're absolutely loaded, and if they want to go hunting for bigger game this year, they can. It's like they can do whatever they want right now. They can pick and choose players if they'd like to. Yeah, they're awesome. They're awesome. As DFS plays today, not so much. So we move on because it's bleak on them streets today. It's not bleak here, however. The main event of the evening, to a degree, the Denver Nuggets, the Philadelphia 76ers. We might as well start with the injury report for the Nuggets, just in case people weren't paying attention. And the easiest way to start here is to just simply say that their actual starting lineup is out today. Aaron Gordon out, Cam Johnson out, Christian Brown out, Jamal Murray out, Nikola Jokic out. And if you want to tack on some extras, Joe Val out, Tim Hardaway Jr. out. The Denver Nuggets have 9 bodies available for today. They are Julian Strawther, Jalen Pickett, Bruce Brown, Peyton Watson, Hunter Tyson, Curtis Jones, Deron Holmes, Zeke Naji, and Spencer Jones. 67% ownership to Julian Strawther, 60 to Jalen Pickett, 40 to Bruce Brown, 20 to Peyton Watson and Hunter Tyson, 10 for Curtis Jones, 4 for Deron Holmes, 3 for Zeke Naji, and I don't remember who was below Zeke Naji. Spencer Jones is at 2. I've said this a couple times over the past week or so in these situations where these teams are like extra special low owned. These guys that are down there at 2 are too low owned for the scenario that's about to happen, because we don't really have any clue who's really going to play all of these minutes. The variance here is absolutely massive. So I'm just going to throw it to you right now. What are the things you like the most from Denver?
I mean, I feel pretty confident about Peyton Watson's role. Stochastic has landed on 33 and a half minutes for him. I think it's a reasonable outlay to expect. I mean, he has played upwards of 40 minutes in some spots, but no guarantee on a back-to-back that he gets that high. But I think he'll be your high usage watermark guy for just him being able to get up as many shots as he wants and hopefully contribute more towards 50-point Peyton Watson as opposed to what we get night to night around 30. But I think he's the one that I'm getting above the field a good amount at 47% field at 23. I'm low on Bruce Brown right now. I'm also not getting Spencer Jones and Deron Holmes. I feel like the minutes not really there for Jones and Holmes. Well, I guess the minutes are there for Jones. The production's not there for him. For Holmes, the minutes don't seem to be there relative to how little he produces at 0.75 or so fantasy points a minute. And he really hasn't been playing as many minutes as I would hope since we saw Joe Val and Jokic go out. We saw him get not even a second quarter stint last game for Denver. They're playing Naji and him separately, but Naji played a good amount of minutes last game out as well. So I think that Jones and Naji aren't splitting 48 minutes. They do kind of eat from the same plate. So that's not great either. But Bruce Brown, I'm way low on, getting only 10%, fields at 40. Jalen Pickett's the one I think I'm the most into. Think he's going to get that Jamal Murray start and also as much opportunity as possible as one guy could sort of functionally run an offense, I guess, besides Bruce Brown if he dusts off his old skills. But Hunter Tyson getting a lot there. Strawther getting a lot there. Curtis Jones I'm getting none of because I just don't see what the pathway is. But Josh, I'm curious who you actually want to advocate for here, because these are not usually the kind of guys you like to advocate for.
No, they're not. These are the Chris Spags all-stars tonight for sure. Julian Strawther, I'm not getting away from. He had worked his way into real minutes before, like back in the day. Now flat 3K with nobody around, guard forward eligibility. It just fits so easily. Title of your sex tape. Pickett, tough to get away from. Had moved into the starting lineup like recently, came back out yesterday for Gordon and Christian Brown being back. Still just 3,800. He's a guy I have a ton of. So I have the same stand on Strawther and Pickett as the field right now. I'm right around the field on Bruce Brown. He does terrify me the most because I see 2 paths here. One is the path where he's the only adult in the room and they just have him out there like he's basically the point guard, the shooting guard, the small forward, the power forward, and the center. Like he's doing literally every job trying to organize this mess as much as he can. Or they look at it like this is a Monday in January. We need Bruce Brown to be able to play in April and May. So you're going to play 18 minutes if this thing doesn't go to the perfect script possible for us. And we're going to let the rest of these morons just soak up all these minutes and be essentially like the guys that come in to pitch in a 15-run baseball game. The guy that I am getting to that is getting no love whatsoever, it's because of his price. I am paying up to be contrarian and getting Spencer Jones.
Okay. I mean,
look, 5,200 blows. But like, what if he just shoot? Like, I don't trust a single name. I barely know who some of these dudes are. I don't know what Curtis Jones is. I have his soccer jersey. He's on Liverpool. That's the best I could do. But Spencer Jones plays for real. I obviously the price is inflated for this, and he's the worst per minute guy on their team. He's 2% owned on a day where there's aggressive chalk, and it could break any way for Denver. Should I have as much as I have right now? Absolutely not. But I'll rectify that in a bit. If he's 2% owned in an hour when I'm submitting my final lineups, I'm going to have 20.
That's a stand. I mean, I get the minutes are there. I'm more the type where it's like, let's see what Hunter Tyson can do in his 21 minutes projected. Let's see what Strother can do. I mean, Strother, we know what he could do, but like he's got 25 minutes minimum salary. I want to be there. If Spencer Jones, to his credit, he's shooting well on the year. I mean, despite being a bad free throw shooter, 66% true shooting, 43% from three. So maybe he's got some more ability in his bag to hit some shots that they just need guys that can knock down shots at this point. It's tough. It's tough, man, because he's done nothing this year. He's not producing at all.
No, but like you also shouldn't be producing if you're Spencer Jones and Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic are on the floor for 32 of your 32 minutes. Like he should do literally dick all while he's out there when those guys are healthy. That is the optimal usage of Spencer Jones when Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray are healthy options. I have my target score for him at 36 and change. That feels scary as hell, that's for sure. But for 2% owned, I'm willing to take that chance. I also think that Zeke Naji is like criminally underowned, but center is just so unique right now with Paul Reed that I'm not surprised to see it. But like, he has to play realistically and could play way more than we expect, depending on how this game goes. Like extra special foul trouble goes wrong, and they only have 5 guys that can play this giant chunk of playing time. 3% on Zeke Naji feels weird to me at 3,500. Then again, we don't have a ton of space open.
And it's also because like Holmes isn't that owned either. So like you're not owning the starter. You don't need to really own the, I'll say backup, but he doesn't have to be the backup. I'm not sold that they want to play them together. Like it felt like last game, they could have played them together a little bit and they just seemingly went out of their way not to. And they also played, neither for a good amount too. And that kind of scares me, but I agree. Like Najee's produced in these spots before. I'd be willing to take a Najee shot. I mean, I'm getting more Najee than I am Spencer Jones at his price tag and Holmes at his price tag.
Yeah, they split 24 and 24 the game before Gordon and Christian Brown came back. But now we're lopping off, 70 more minutes or whatever the fuck from this team. Like, I think they can play alongside. Like, they're both willing shooters. They physically can. It's not like it's Joval and some other idiot that can't stretch the floor realistically. Like, these guys both shoot like 5 threes per 100 possessions. They can both stand in outside spots and let it sail. That's not going to be great, but whatever. I think we probably see them alongside of each other at some point in time, or it's going really bad for both of them. I find him sneaky. That's all I'll say. 3,500, like 4,800 for Holmes is tough because it's inflated already. Zeke Naji could just play 32 minutes today.
Holmes, I will say, if anybody watches the game tonight, and I've watched some of Denver lately, particularly I was curious about Holmes and just how he looks. Watch him just run around the 3-point arc, look for somebody to pass on the ball to shoot threes. Like he's willing. You're right. He's a very willing shooter, and I think that's something where if they actually give him a run and give him a shot, like I think he can do something. But like he wants to shoot threes real bad. Zeke Naji can. But yeah, they both kind of do the same thing that Jokic and Joval do. Like you could stretch the floor with them if you really want to.
Valentine Spot said, who closes in a blowout is the big question. I mean, I can tell you who doesn't, and that's the easiest thing. There's no chance that Bruce Brown, Spencer Jones, or Peyton Watson are closing in the blowout. definitely Bruce Brown and Peyton Watson, who will be a part of this team when it's extra real. So it's going to be some combination of Najee, Strother, Tyson, Jones, Pickett, and Holmes to me. If it's
I would say
an
Pickett probably
uncompetitive
not.
blowout.
Pickett not closing a game at this point that's a blowout because he's started. He's back to being the backup to Murray, I think. I think Curtis Jones definitely part of that group. Pickett not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Jones, Tyson, Strother seems like a 100% yes.
Mm-hmm.
One of the two centers is my estimation, and then undetermined fifth spot. Definitely not Bruce Brown would be my guess.
Mm-mm.
That seems safe. So that's the Denver side. We do have a Philly side of this one, and they are essentially at full strength, at least when it comes to like their real dudes. Embiid is 25% owned at 8,700, and boy, oh boy, is he probably looking at this matchup in a tasty manner. 15% ownership to Tyrese Maxey, just 5 for a $6,500 Paul George, who I feel is a little bit more interesting than that. What do you want to do on the Philly side to balance yourself out?
I boosted Embiid. I've not been getting him a lot this year just because last year's performances were so bad relatively that he kind of comes down for that in my data. But he's starting to look more like himself this matchup, if ever Embiid's going to really stat pad. And also, like, if he's going to be a dick about it too, because it's a game where Jokic isn't playing and he's ducked these Jokic matchups for literal years now. It's the kind of thing where I could see Embiid like really putting down a monster number, just be like, I beat up on the Nuggets. And that's narrative, but like it's also just that just look at the matchup. They have nobody that can stop him or even come close to what he does. If anything, I mean, Holmes getting in foul trouble against Embiid, I think is not a certainty, but got to be a really high likelihood. I just think Embiid's a really strong play here. He's showed the ceiling lately. Willing to get there today at, I've got him in about third of my lineups, Fields at a quarter. So not the biggest say in the world, but I'm up on it. Maxey, I got more of the most recent run as well. Got him at 25%. I think that the matchup's going to be similarly easy for him. But, for Maxey, like there's not as obvious an advantage as there is for Embiid. And you have Paul George, Edgecombe, Grimes to a much lesser extent competing for some of those, opportunities that could go Maxey's way. But I think Maxey and Embiid are really the big ones here where if there's a beatdown or if this game stays competitive, like they might just put up 60 here.
I've got 18% of Paul George. I'm pretty happy about that, given the ownership. Manageable price tag. 28% of Embiid. I'm a little lighter on Maxey right now. That said, like I was a bit over on Brunson. I was a bit over on who's the other? Cade. So like, I think I just picked different point guards. I'm just going to get a bunch of some combination of those three guys one way or the other. But yeah, I think Paul George is my lean here for Philly. I think he's a little underrepresented for what we're getting. This is a hell of a slate, man. This is fun times. Just some true garbage out there today. You must be, you're like a pig today. You're rolling around in it.
Well, it's funny too. Like you really went out of your way to pay attention to the FanDuel people, and then you're leaving their last two games off entirely.
Well, it's 5:59 and 15 seconds.
I get it.
It was live before lock time.
The airwaves. I agree. We're done working, but
yeah,
it's a funny approach to me.
I ran out of time, brother. It's tough to talk about these games. If DraftKings and FanDuel are going to be not giving us the same slate.
It's true.
Tough.
It's FanDuel's fault always.
Yeah. Look, there's another hour of this bad boy. We're not going anywhere. 6 to 7 o'clock, NBA live before lock. And guess what? That's right now. What up, Greg? What up, Eric?
Yeah, we've got an interesting one today. I know you were making fun of Spags for it because he gets to dust off a lot of his favorite players, which is anybody who just generally sucks at basketball. But he didn't even get to talk about potentially playing like Grimes or something on the other side of the game. He should really fill out his lineup with all of his favorite players.
No, it's not a Grimes slate. That's if he were a Denver Nugget, it'd be a Grimes slate. He'd put up 80 today.
Sure would.
He probably would. Mm-hmm. He probably would.
Be the only 80
not a Grimes slate.
Up, so that'll be fun.
80 missed
guys,
shots.
Get on out of here. It is Eric and I's turn to talk about the slate. Spags, Josh, have a good night. Good luck with your lineups today. It is time now for NBA Live Before Lock. So if you guys have not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we've got a lot to cover for you guys here because there is infinity value on the Denver Nuggets today, but trying to figure out who these value guys will actually want to be playing, Eric, that's going to be something else entirely. As far as players on the injury report today, James Harden is questionable. That matters if you're playing on FanDuel today. You got Steven Adams questionable. Ace Bailey is questionable. That's not quite as important, but he's somebody who's been playing minutes. So figure that he should be somebody who we throw into that mix there. And then, of course, some of these starting lineups, who knows what they're going to end up being? I mean, some of these teams could go in many different directions, like Denver. I don't know exactly who Denver's starting. We can make some educated guesses, but their entire starting, anybody other than Peyton Watson and Bruce Brown, all the other guys who matter are out for the Denver Nuggets today. So it'll be interesting. I am curious. What's your best guess for a Denver Nuggets starting lineup today?
Got to be Pickett, considering he's gotten revolved into the starting lineup as is. I think it ends up being Bruce Brown over Julian Strother, just from the get-go. And then Jones, Watson, Holmes, just because that's what they've done the last few. So I'll go Pickett, Brown, Jones, Watson, Holmes. How about you?
I think that's a reasonable guess. I'll agree with you. The ones who I feel the best about are Pickett, Brown, and Watson. Spencer Jones has already made other starts, so I guess him as well. Then, yeah, I guess maybe the starting lineup isn't too difficult to make an educated guess. But how many times do we see this and then it's just like, oh, this idiot that we never considered lands in the starting lineup? It feels like that happens more often than not in these situations.
Yeah, I mean, Day'Ron Holmes, this is a guy who had a torn Achilles last year, and so he missed his entire rookie year. At Dayton, he was an awesome basketball player. Of course, just like everybody does. I spent my morning watching him play on YouTube highlights because I'm like, I couldn't recognize this guy in a lineup. That is for sure. But I do remember him at Dayton being really, really good. And then just obviously last year's injury I think it was in the G League, not G League, in Summer League. But then ended up making it a very short year for him. He's whatever. I mean, I doubt that they care all that much between him, Zeke, Najee. So like if it just switched on a dime, they didn't have an anticipation of playing either at any point this year when you have Jokic and Valanciunas there. So the fact that they're playing in general is pretty interchangeable. But I mean, you can basically say, whoever gets to start, giving them an extra minute or two and call it a day. But like mostly you could just say 24-24 and call it a day between the two of them.
We got Denver value. There's some Detroit value. And then that what might be the most significant injury remaining is Steven Adams, Eric, because you've already got Şengün out for today. Now, Steven Adams is so tough. I don't know about you. I presume he's going to end up playing. It takes a lot to take Steven Adams off the court, especially when he knows the team's going to be relying on him with Steven Adams out. With Şengün out. I assume that Adams ends up playing. But in the event that he doesn't end up playing, things get really interesting in the front court for the Houston Rockets as well. But are you on the same page as me? You think that Steven Adams is going to be good to go?
Well, not only that, but like Mark Williams had his minutes limited big time, partially too, because Phoenix came from behind and found a way to win yesterday's game. Going through popcorn machine last night, or through this morning popcorn machine, but then going through the box score on ESPN last night, I think you could get a lot of minutes of Osei Iguodala. And so like whomever is going to be on the other side of that one, it's really good to be the starting center for the Houston Rockets today. They should get a lot of rebound opportunities. Both of them phenomenal rebounders, Adams and Capella, better rebounders than Şengün, but obviously not nearly the quality of basketball players. It's a big one because, Clint Capella would be a big part of our lives. Plus, you might get some like dusted off version of like a DFS at the 5. Like there's some weird stuff that could happen with Houston's rotations if Adams is out.
Colby White, good to play, although he's going to be limited to 24 minutes. So what does that mean? It means Colby White himself isn't somebody that we're going to want to be getting to. But on top of it, it also means that it's going to take away from some other Bulls guys, just Colby White being out there. Let's see, what did we have for minutes for him? We had Colby White in for 25 and a half minutes. So assuming we're going to be taking that down a tick here, that'll make him look not as appealing. Not that he already looks massively appealing, but just interesting news to bring to you guys. Let you know that Colby White is going to be limited here. He's also back a little bit quicker than I thought he was going to be, considering this is the second time that he's dealt with that calf injury to the same calf this year. Let's talk about the Denver guys before we start answering some of the questions from Discord and any super chats that come in, because I think it is really important to go over these Denver guys and kind of highlight who it is that we like the most in this game. We're going to have to consider things like blowout risk. They're 15-point underdogs last I looked?
I mean, yes and no. Like there's certain ways where even in blowout run, like it's going to be pretty interchangeable with some of these guys. Like I assume they know who Zeke Najee is a lot more than who they think Holmes is. And Holmes has been starting as is. And it wouldn't shock me if Holmes just ends up getting blowout run because they're trying to figure out what they have with him. It gets a little bit dicier as far as like some of the guards, just because like Jalen Pickett would normally be mop-up duty, but like, do you prioritize him over anything else that you've got sitting there waiting in the wings? Hunter Tyson's like their other quote unquote big that would be out there. I guess he could play over somebody else there. But anyway, don't mean to go on this tangent considering we're about to go on it anyway. But I do think like one of the starters obviously has to be on the floor when you only have 9 active guys, #math. But it gets a little bit more interesting, I think, just trying to figure out the front court where who is not starting between Holmes, Najee. I mean, that's going to be something that I probably click on more than I should.
So you guys could see here that number one, we've got our projected starting lineups are now in the data hub here. So you can see who it is that we're projecting to start. And it's actually the same lineup that you and I guessed here, Eric. Pickett, Bruce Brown, we got Peyton Watson, we've got Holmes, we got Spencer Jones. As far as ownership goes, 67% of the field expected to play Julian Strawther, even though we're expecting to come off the bench. And Strawther, competent fantasy producer, 0.88 fantasy points per minute. He's the flat min at 3K. Good position eligible, actually great position eligibility, shooting guard, small forward. If you could give somebody any position eligibility on DraftKings, shooting guard, small forward is probably the number one most valuable eligibility you could give somebody. So you got Strawther, the most popular at 67%. Then you've got Pickett at 60%, Bruce Brown, 43%. Nobody else is crazy popular beyond those guys, though. 22% to Peyton Watson, 20% to Hunter Tyson, 11% to Curtis Jones. And then we've got, surprisingly, Holmes only, I guess maybe not all that surprising because he's not as cheap as the other guys and he's only got the center eligibility. But first thing I want to ask you, of the 3 guys who are really popular on the team, Strawther, Pickett, Bruce Brown, do you view any of them as being overowned?
Strawther, but as you said, he's got the best eligibility of everybody. And so that's like, he's the most popular person of everybody. And it's hard when you get 5 cracks at being in an optimal lineup. That's the whole thing Greg's talking about. Shooting guard, small forward, guard, forward, utility. That gives you more optionality to be able to have a 24-point, 25-point game by Julian Strawther end up optimal no matter what. It's very hard to imagine where he wouldn't be in those kind of scenarios. And that's why he's so valuable. He's a decent fantasy producer as well. My thing is like thinking through this closing lineup. If you just say Curtis Jones plays over Jalen Pickett, I probably change my answer and say Jalen Pickett is probably the most overowned because while he's the better fantasy producer of those 3 popular pieces you threw out there, is he an alpha? When you look at like some of his prop numbers today, like I would say his assist numbers were a lot lower than I anticipated, partially because of what's surrounding him. He doesn't even have Tim Hardaway Jr. out there for Christ's sake, but like Pickett at 5.5 assists, barely juiced here at the moment. It's just kind of like, all right, I know that he's 3,800, but like Curtis Jones at 3K, if you told me I could just narrow the gap between the two of them and Curtis Jones starts over him, I'd probably go that direction. But that's like bringing 2 guys into account. I think Julian Strawther the most overowned, but probably the most likely to just end up in my lineups no matter what.
Look at this. Here's a bold call of the night. Maybe this is a nuke of the night. John Daly says Lindy is winning the main tournament by 20 DraftKings fantasy points. Boy, that would be a hell of an accomplishment for that $5 on DraftKings.
I won it by 0.5. Well, yeah, no, we won't even rehash that. No, not enough time. I won my first one by double digits, which was fun. My first 100K was a double digit takedown. So that was fun. But
John Daly saying you're winning by 20.
That's twice as much as I won by. So that's great.
So I'm about even with the field with him, so I'm not necessarily going to call him overowned, but between Strawther, Pickett, and Bruce Brown, I have the most concerns about Bruce Brown because, number one, he's the most expensive of the 3. Not that $4,300 is some sort of exorbitant price tag, but you've got the $4,300 price tag on him. And then also, of all the guys who are potentially going to be playing in garbage time, he's like last on the list for me. I think there's a very, very limited possibility of Bruce Brown playing in garbage time. So that's why if I'm building one lineup and have to get away from one of the 3 very popular Denver players, I would say Bruce Brown is the one to get off of for that reason.
I get it. I also think with him being projected for the second most fantasy points on the team behind Peyton Watson, there's a part of me that thinks like it's going to be him and Watson having to initiate any all offense. And there's a very good chance that there's going to be some failure on the Denver side. I mean, none of these guys are main rotational pieces in the NBA as is. This is very reminiscent of the Golden State days that I always think about from like 4 years ago. Steph Curry hurt, Draymond Green out, everybody out, nobody there. And they had 8 guys active every day, and it was just interchangeable. And they would have totals of like 88.5 at books. Like their team totals would be unbelievably low for NBA basketball players. And you'd get 1 or 2 failures, but you'd also get 2 or 3 guys that were just must play type dudes because they were 3K or 4,300 or whatever it might be. So I get your Bruce Brown angle for sure. I think he's also the one who might slip through the cracks because he is 4,300. Right now we have him a little bit positively leveraged, just barely. And there's a lot of volatility here. I don't know what happens here with some of this ownership, but I will say Hunter Tyson is like the darling of our projections right now. And I kind of agree with that. Like, it's not terribly far off small forward, power forward where he's listed at. You've got a pretty nice range with 4 spots you could play him in there, 3K flat. And I do think he's got a chance to play some minutes at the 5 today. I know Zeke Naji is quote unquote center, but he's another small type center. And Hunter Tyson, he's a bigger wing to some extent. And like, depending on what happens behind him, like Andre Drummond should have some field days behind on the boards. That's for damn sure in the backup unit and in cleanup duty. I've thought about 4,400 Drummond a lot today for what it's worth, more than I probably should have on this slate.
One other thing I want to ask you about Denver before we move on from this game. Are there any of the lower owned players you like from the Nuggets? Because we got these 3 really popular guys. Peyton Watson's 22% owned. Hunter Tyson's 20% owned. You got Curtis Jones, 11% owned. Everybody else, single digit owned of the available players. So whether you want to talk about, Peyton Watson here, that's perfectly acceptable. But any of the not 3 popular guys that you're trying to invest in for any particular reason from the Denver side.
Say that one more time. I'm confused. I didn't hear that entirely.
Is there anybody outside of the 3 most popular guys from Denver that you want to be overweight to? Or
Hunter Tyson. Hunter Tyson. Yeah, Hunter Tyson was the guy I just got done talking about for sure. Day'Ron Holmes, it's harder at 4,800. Zeke Naji, I'll probably be overweight too, but he's 3% and was just talking about the disparity there. And Spencer Jones is like wildly expensive for this spot. I know he's 2% and he's on the Denver Nuggets. I heard that at the tail end of the show, and I kind of agree with Josh there. But overall, friends, there is no question that 2% of anybody on a team with 9 guys is somewhat appealing. But yeah, I can't imagine I'm going to have even 5% of him.
Peyton Watson, for me, just in the event that also another guy, he's not playing in garbage time. But if this game is close, I just don't see how it happens without Peyton Watson playing well. Last I looked, his points prop was 23.5 for today. Let's see what it is now over on FanDuel.
Got to be lower than that. 19.5, I think I saw earlier.
It is at
19.5.
It is at, it's come all the way down to, 19.5. Wow, it was way higher than that earlier. Now I feel like an idiot because I have same game parlay posted over to Tails. If you guys want to check it out, just go to tails.bet or download the Tails app. I was building a same game parlay for a blowout angle in this game. And one of the legs I considered including was under 23.5 points for Peyton Watson, because that was what his prop was earlier. But ultimately decided that I wanted to go with some of the older Philly guys, unders on Joel Embiid, unders on Paul George with the spread for the game. Now I wish I would have included the Peyton Watson points prop, considering how much it's come down. But that aside, I just don't see a way this game stays close without Peyton Watson having a significant scoring game. So I want to get some exposure to Peyton Watson just because all the usage is available to him. So I do have him in about 30% of lineups right now.
Love.
Oh boy, Morgan Wiper. Why are you stirring up shit here? Why are you stirring up shit, Morgan Wiper? Look at this. He's throwing shots at poor Eric, and Eric's going to defend himself in a big way right here. But Morgan, who, listen, very few of us have had the amount of success that I certainly haven't had the success that Morgan Wiper has had. The guy's won multiple millionaire makers this year in different sports. But he says here, has Lindy ever won a DraftKings tournament? Oh, hell yeah, he has. Outside of the one time where he had the $1 million NFL tournament, didn't enter it in the $20. So it takes a little shot at you at the end. But Yeah, Eric's won the big contest, the $100 to first on DraftKings. And obviously, I don't remember.
Last year, I had the 30K that I had that what Jesse always likes to remind me that it was a train of 4 people, so it doesn't count. He's a jerk like that. But earlier this year, NFL, I've got those contests coming up. I've got 2 tickets for the whatever it is, the 100K to first thing with like 200 people, and the Pocket Max thing that has been running on DraftKings. So looking forward to that for the Super Bowl weekend. But it's I've not won a tournament this year on DraftKings.com. It's been a long time coming here. So I think 5 days in, I'm due.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe today's the day. I also have not. I came close the other day, but no first place finishes in 2026 for me through the first 4 days yet. And then was there something? No, that was all of his question/comment. Anthony Davis. Will it be Drummond or Bona? I prefer Drummond to Bona today.
I do too, by a mile. And that's the thing is, like, I would be really annoyed because I do think if this game gets really, really, really out of hand, it probably becomes Bona, and then I'm boned. So I've thought about Drummond a lot today. We'll put it that way. Because I've been thinking a lot about what happens in these blowouts, finding one piece to bring along for the ride of any kind, because this is obviously a game environment we want to have be fruitful. It's something that's showing up in so many lineups, and I don't feel great about Embiid. That's for sure. I don't feel great about them needing to push his workload. I also don't feel that good about Maxey, considering, I mean, my God, 9,700 for him alongside Embiid now. There's just so many ways for me where this gets a little bit dicey, and Barlow's too expensive, 4,100. I mean, it's basically Drummond or pass on this entire team for me. It's wild to say that out loud.
So we've got a super chat here from Miami Mike. He wants us to plug in this lineup for him. So while I plug in his lineup, can you do me a favor and answer this question, Eric, from the David? Funny, we got back-to-back questions. One is from a David Lee, former NBA All-Star, and a current NBA All-Star, and Anthony Davis. So David Lee wants to know, how many Nuggets would you recommend playing in one lineup? So if you could hit on that while I plug Miami Mike's lineup into the single lineup sims. Yeah,
first off, David Lee's second most famous athlete in his couple, which is kind of amazing when you think about that. So shout out Caroline Wozniacki, formerly of Rory McIlroy Company. But Miami Mike, this is basically just straightforward. You can play 3.5. Like 3 guys is going to be the chalk in most lineups. 2 is actually too few based on what I'm looking at in the Sims. Like, these guys are so cheap. 4,300 Bruce Brown, 3K Julian Strother, Jalen Pickett 3,800. Those are the 3 that show up in our optimal, which you can do over on the single lineup sim. But then I've got my sim over here on the side, and everything has 3 and or 4 Denver Nuggets in it at the moment for me. So I will say 3.5 kind of being where you want to land there. It's very hard to imagine a scenario where you're not getting at least 2 of these guys that are going to show up optimal tonight. And that being said, that doesn't count the number of times that a third will still come along and be in the winning lineup.
So I've got this lineup plugged in for Miami Mike. It is SGA Pickett, Brown, Jalen Johnson, Embiid, Strother, Barrett, and Paul Reed. And Trae Young looks like his time is done in Atlanta, by the way, if you guys didn't see that a few minutes ago. But they are apparently working on a trade for him. So lineup came out positive here, Mike, a 32.3% sim ROI. So no issues with any of the players you have in that lineup. I think you're good to run that out. And does that get us caught up on all of the super chats now? It does. So let's see if there was any questions for us in Discord. And in the Discord channel, we do not have any questions at the moment. So if you guys are a Stochastic sub and you want to ask Eric and I a question, you know the deal. Just tag me in Discord and I'll answer it. And also, if you want to sign up for a package we have here at Stochastic, all the links to sign up are down below in the YouTube description box. By the way, I also want to shout out DraftKings, because DraftKings Best Ball sponsoring today's show. Big contests for the playoff best ball contests, which are really fun to draft, Eric. You go ahead, and I know the way I do it. Steven Adams in, by the way, so that's official. So the DraftKings big $1 million contest, $1 million for first place for the best ball. Have you done any of those drafts yet?
I haven't done any of them yet. Obviously, I've seen a million people doing them here over on social, but just been busy here in the streets, in the NBA streets, betting, pick 'em, all the goodness. So haven't gotten to sit down and do it. promise you I'll do it before the weekend.
Yeah, so it's funny. I was going through because I've been doing the drafts like intermittently. It's kind of like a shitting activity for me because they go, especially they go very fast. The 6-man drafts. So like you could Şengün out for 2 weeks. So you could you could you could squeeze one out and do one of those drafts pretty quick. So I was going through some of my teams earlier because I was curious. Like, all right, now that the seeding is set, where are these? And I found one of my teams that was my favorite when I drafted it. It is a full Denver Broncos, Seattle Seahawks stack. They'll have 0 players playing in the first round. Yeah. So there's a little bit more clarity now that we've got some of those seed sets. So I'm looking forward to doing more of those best ball drafts as we go here. And some more questions from Discord. We've got Larson. Larson says FanDuel center single entry is Paul Reed a lock button. Well, for single entry, everybody you play, you have 100% of, and I would play Paul Reed in single entry.
Yes, agreed.
For large field tournaments, how much of Paul Reed are you planning on getting to for today? He's my most rostered player. I don't have 100% of him. I'm still gonna have to rerun stuff as we get more updates here. I see we got a projections update a few minutes ago that I still have to take into account. But my last run, I had 86% of Paul Reed.
Assuming he's starting, I'm just playing a bunch of him too. There's just nothing you can do about it. And that's, why we're seeing some of the ownership we are on centers on the Denver side too. They're like the least necessary position to try to get anything from. And Paul Reed is just the infinitely best point per dollar guy because it's a really, really good team. He's starting on it. And, now that Stewart's basically playing the 4 here, we just saw it yesterday for the first time in forever. So not saying that they have to go out and run it here, but it would make sense to do it against Cat and Mitchell Robinson on the other side. So I assume he starts. I assume that we're just going to play a bunch.
Yeah, definitely somebody who is, assuming he starts, my most rostered player on the entire slate. It's just a matter of like, is he going to be in 87 or 95 or 100% of lineups? It's going to be a massive number though. Yeah. Let's see. Boom Shack says Sim ROI is saying 32% for the lineup that we just ran. And he wants to know, is that considered a low number? Sometimes it could be over 100% Sim ROI. Yeah. So there's some variability in terms of in the sim run, like how many tournaments does it end up winning? Because that will definitely be something that boosts up that Sim ROI. In general, though, anything that's solidly positive is a lineup that you should feel, fairly good about. Win, who are the FanDuel priorities? And also wants to know, do we think Harden plays off of the sore shoulder? So the Harden factor only matters for FanDuel, Eric. It doesn't matter at all for the DraftKings side of things. Do you have a lean on whether Harden is going to be in or out?
I got to lean out because this number's just gone like really in favor of Golden State. I got this at Golden State as a dog yesterday. They were plus 1.5 yesterday when I recorded Lindy's and was able to get a little bit over on Kalshi and fire it up. And I feel pretty good about that. Now it's like gotten a little bit wonky. I was polymarked, by the way, but I look at this and it's at 3 now. That just screams that James Harden questionable, probably more likely to be out. I also thought it was a little bit of a bad line as it was. So kind of twofold in that analysis, but I look at James Harden being a guy that probably would duck a Golden State spot more than the average bear too. So there's a lot going on there at the end of the day, but you got to build around it a little bit on FanDuel just by getting yourself some Kawhi Leonard in your life. I got to think Chris Dunn plays the point and they just slide everybody down and maybe start, a Kobe Sanders. I doubt Batum would start with John Collins back. So just to talk about it for the FanDuel perspective right now, with Bogdanovich out, there's not a lot outside of Sanders that would potentially be coming off the bench and being a spark plug. But Chris Dunn would just walk into being one of the best plays over on that slate. I'd put him immediately like to the 34, 35 minute type realm. It's a competitive game environment, and he's going to be out there guarding Steph Curry for as many minutes as humanly possible. So pay attention to that news, but like Kawhi Leonard, Chris Dunn, those are definitely awesome spots.
And then as far as the other part of Wynn's question goes, FanDuel priorities, these are the players I have the most exposure to at each position for FanDuel. Point guard, Jalen Pickett. Shooting guard, Bruce Brown. Small forward, I like relative to ownership, Jalen Johnson. Power forward, that's going to be Daron Holmes for me, also at pretty modest ownership. A little bit easier to get to him on FanDuel and DraftKings because he's got power forward eligibility on FanDuel. And then center, that is going to be Paul Reed for me for some priority plays at each position there. Sick Tracks wants to know, how do we feel about Cat's rebounds at 11.5? See, what is our projection on Cat? I can't say it's something I've thought much about today. So let's see what we have for Cat. I assume you're not opinionated on that off the top of your head.
Not really. I mean, he's like, there's so many guys on this slate that are like, hey, if he puts up 60, you're in good shape. Like, no shit. Like Jaylen Brown, Tyrese Maxey, Jalen Brunson, Kevin Durant, Karl Anthony Towns, Scotty Barnes, Ball. The difficult thing about Towns is he's at the worst position of everybody else that I listed. He's at center where Paul Reed exists. So like, I can't do it. Like, I just really can't.
If I'm going to take one side of it, it would be the over. Just looking at our projections here, we do have them projected for 11.9 rebounds. So if it's going to be one side, we shade a little bit more towards the over, but I don't think it's an especially strong bet or anything like that. But the over if I had to take a side there.
Yeah. Sorry, I was looking at the DFS perspective of it. I assume that's what it was. But yeah, betting side of it, leaning over, but not playing it by any means.
And then the next question we have, it is from Sniffs in a blowout. Who'd be on the court for the 76ers?
He I thought about Drummond. Somebody was mad at me because it's like, oh, Drummond's projected for 10. I'm like, I'm very aware, but he is a 1.4 fantasy point per minute guy that if he plays blowout run and this is a 30-point game, that'd be fun. I just don't think he's guaranteed to get it.
McCain. I think they would like to get McCain going a little bit. He was really good for them last year. He's been tremendously disappointing this season. So I think McCain, who we did ask specifically about, I do think McCain would play in garbage time. I don't know that there's anybody else, though, that I'd really want to play from the 76ers just for a blowout scenario.
Agreed. Yeah, it'd be Bona probably at the center spot. Again, that's kind of what I've come to the conclusion of. Jared McCain, probably getting Jabari Walker, Justin Edwards, both of them out there. And then one of Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry would probably close too. I mean, why not just let them go out? Chuck, Kyle Lowry, the chosen boy from Villanova. So like maybe go out there and let him shoot a couple of threes and call it a day. All 300 pounds of him.
Win got a fat ass though. Win wants to know RJ and Kawhi or White and Holmgren. Considering that I think there's a pretty good chance Harden sits, that's going to be the Kawhi side.
Kawhi.
And then Einstein wants to know, do we have any interest in the Chicago-Boston game? Doesn't really have that much ownership. Let's see. My last run, was I getting too much of Chicago or Boston? So starting on the Chicago side, Kobe White playing today and being limited, that really makes it hard to get to pretty much anybody from Chicago. For Boston, I don't have any issue really ever with getting exposure to Jaylen Brown, considering how well he's played this season, but nothing else that's really of all that much interest. I've got 25% of Jaylen Brown though. So for sure him.
Yep. Definitely him.
And let's see the super chats. We're all caught up on those. You know what I think it's a good time for, Eric?
Oh, we like nuking things.
Let's do it. All right. Interesting slate here, Eric. A lot of times I'll go into this and I'll have a little bit of an idea of what direction I think you might want to go with for your nuke of the night. I honestly have no clue today. It could be anybody on this slate and it would not shock me. So who are you going with here?
I've thought multiple times about, making it a Denver guy. I think everybody's just going to be playing a little bit of Denver and nothing is really going to be all that surprising from my perspective here. But I guess the one thing we haven't really covered, I mean, we have all the injury news here now at this point in time, and we just got Karis LeVert, who is doubtful. He ends up being out. So, like, we're playing this slate very, very straight up. But I don't think Oklahoma City is going to pull any type of ownership whatsoever from anybody. And I'm kind of interested just kind of like looking at this team. I went into the single lineup sim and was poking around before our show. And it's got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams. They're both pulling some ownership, but there's a really intriguing angle here. This is a back-to-back for them. And we got Alex Caruso ruled out. And I talked about that a little bit last night. Aaron Wiggins and AJ Mitchell are both kind of your closeout type dudes. And like, if you get somebody really low owned that can beat out the Bruce Brown or something, and you're kind of like looking in that same price point, there is something to be said about taking a shot on either one of them. And that's where I think Aaron Wiggins at 1%, 3,900 is just somebody that the usage should be there. They're 15.5-point favorites. Charlotte did have everybody come in, but the blowout risk is just routinely here. And I think just because of the huge disparity in terms of price tag, I'm just trying to find that 1 point of deviation where I can get away from the same piece of value on a Denver side and turn that into a 1, 2, 3% type piece. I think on other slates, we'd see them like 4, 5, 6%. Not that it'd ever be all that popular, but like I keep landing on this 38, 3,900 type number. And in those 3,900 lineups, small forward, power forward, Aaron Wiggins, mop up duty, knocking down 4 or 5 threes against Charlotte that can't defend it. Nuke of the night at 1%.
I am going to go with a not crazy popular player, but somebody who's positively leveraged in our tools and not insanely popular, but fits in the lineups really easily. Cade Cunningham, he's actually fairly contrarian over on FanDuel. He's around 14% owned. DraftKings 21% owned. We've got him once again as one of the more positively leveraged players. And among spend up options, the most positively leveraged player in our boom bust data. Of all the value we have on the slate, Eric, the majority of it's in the front court. Right? The Denver guys that we want to be rostering, a lot of them have forward eligibility, or Paul Reed, for instance, center eligibility. So this is actually one of the slates where it makes a ton of sense to spend up at point guard. And then also one thing that's kind of interesting for the slate is even though we've got a lot of value in the front court, Jalen Johnson is 55% owned. And that really cuts into the ownership of the other spend up guys. We've seen that a bunch of these slates where like Jalen Johnson will be 50% owned. Denny Avdija will be 40% owned. There's just no other spend up options that are pulling ownership. So Cade, like I said, just over 20% owned on DraftKings, ownership in the teens over on FanDuel. I'm overweight to the field to him, Eric. Relative to ownership, he's my favorite spend up on the slate. And we need spend ups to get to with all the value today.
Absolutely love Cade Cunningham. SGA, obviously, I like a little bit too at 10-3, but talking about the blowout risk, some other stuff, just want to like make sure I have like one OKC guy littered amongst everything there because there's some really low owned upside everywhere. And, you know, it's stars and scrubs. This is a stars and scrubs slate. So Jalen Johnson, I get that one. I totally get Scotty Barnes too at 8,300, why he's pulling the ownership he is, but Cade Cunningham being lower amongst the 8K plus guys as well. I think he's probably my favorite here too, going up against the Knicks in a home spot that should be pretty fun.
Pierre wants to know any must plays from the Utah-Portland game. It is a game that when I run everything through the Sims for the FanDuel side, I get a good amount of exposure to, in particular to Shaedon Sharpe and Denny Avdija. Anything else that stands out to you about the Utah-Portland game?
Yeah, Denny Avdija, definitely. I think he had the highest PRA in my sheet when I woke up this morning. It's like 46.5 or something. That always is appealing. So when you're talking about a guy that is going to be very, very intriguing there, 70% ownership on Yahoo? What a time to be alive at $43. That is an insane number. And yet it's totally justified. He has a ridiculous role. This front court should just smack Denny Avdija, technically point guard, I guess, at the moment, but Donovan Clingan as well. Somebody that I think is interesting to get a little bit different, but with Paul Reed's existence, with a bunch of other stuff, just not something I've thought a ton about.
Who are you, Emac? Who the hell just knows Yahoo ownership off the top of the dome?
I didn't. I saw it on the screen.
Oh, I didn't even realize I had Yahoo up. I meant to pull up FanDuel. Look at that.
I would be, it'd be awesome to be legend EMAC DFS, but at the same time,
Yeah.
no, I did not know it off the top of my dome. That would have been a while.
Yeah, I was like, well, how does he
50%
know?
ownership over on FanDuel. I saw what was on the screen and saw the Yahoo portion of it. So wanted to point out that was an insane amount of ownership. I missed the Yahoo days. Those were good days.
Yeah, there was a point in time where that was a really good place to make a bunch of money and have overlay for the purpose of a DFS. But yeah, I've got up here our FanDuel projections. You guys will see that if we just sort by fantasy player projection, we've got Denny Avdia in for 52.31 fantasy points. That leads all players on the slate, just marginally ahead of Jalen Johnson and Cade Cunningham. However, that also means a lot of ownership going to Denny. He is 51% owned on FanDuel, Jalen Johnson 25% owned, and then you've got the modest ownership 16% on Cade Cunningham that I've referenced before. But yeah, PR, it's a good game to be getting some exposure to. Win wants to know, do we prefer SGA or Cade for today? Cade over SGA for me. I think both of them.
Cade.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think both of them are players to be overweight to, but I'm more overweight to Cade.
Yeah, I'm overweight to Cade. I'm overweight to SGA, but I would prefer Cade if playing one.
All right. That has us caught up on questions here. So let's get back to looking at the ownership now that we've got an update here, Eric. And here are the most popular players now overall on the slate. We've got first on the FanDuel side of things, Paul Reed is 68% owned. Jalen Pickett, 58% owned. Bruce Brown, 57% owned. Denny Avdia, 51% owned. Then you got Strother, 39% owned. Shaden Sharp, 35% owned. So those are all your most popular players on FanDuel. Now on DraftKings in our most recent run of ownership, we have 50. Oh, okay, there we go. 86% ownership still to Paul Reed. We've got 71% to Strother, Pickett 68% owned, Jalen Johnson 55% owned, Bruce Brown 44% owned. Now Scotty Barnes at 33% ownership. Did anything really stand out to you in our latest run of ownership, or all kind of as expected for you?
As expected, Paul Reed, I mean, he's not going to get to 86%. That would be wild. We've seen routinely these guys coming under that. So I'm just jamming Paul Reed. He's basically going to be in 95% plus of what I do today. Out of 150, I'm playing 160 total lineups. Yeah, I'm looking at a lot of Paul Reed. As far as the other stuff goes, we don't know the starting lineup for Denver. If something changes compared to what is currently projected, I will say I could see some Peyton Watson going way up in my life. I know that he's got negative leverage there, but I just don't want Strother out there. If Strother's out there alongside him, that would be a little bit of a problem, because I think Strother's actually pretty functional and can actually get a basketball in a bucket. But I assume he's coming off the bench just like we have projected. And I think everything looks pretty efficient as it is right now.
So one other thing that I want to bring up to you guys, I talked about the other day as well. The 150 max contest, the big one on DraftKings, it's the $5. So for the contest archetype, in the contest generator, I set it in between marquee and low stakes for the $5. I think that's something that's going to get you a little bit closer to accurate ownership projections for that particular contest. It just tends to be a little bit softer when it's the $5 contest as opposed to the $15. So just want to give you guys that tip. And if you do have it set to the lower, Paul Reed's ownership does come down a decent amount when you run everything through the sim. So take note of that. Bears fan. How much run do you guys think that Jenkins has? Well, here's our projection on Dennis Jenkins for today. We've got him for 17 minutes, 15 fantasy points. He'll be low owned, sub 1%, but he on a slate like this that is so much value, he doesn't project well enough for him to show up in lineups for me.
Yeah, you can't reverse engineer. I guess if you're super, super chalky and you're holding all the 40, 50% Denver guys and you want to swap out one for it, we saw a bunch of run yesterday. I get worried part of that was because it was the back-to-back. It could easily go back the direction of Sasser. Now it's being projected the opposite of what it was being projected yesterday, because Sasser was the guy going ahead and then Jenkins gets hot, and that is what it is. Just know it's extremely fragile. And sometimes it's really hard to encapsulate what is going to happen with a 7th, 8th, 9th guy off the bench, because it can be shooting dependent. And I can't tell you who knocks down shots in their first rotation between the two of them, but one guy might get a little bit more leash than the other, and it just changes the equation. So it's too volatile for this slate. we have too good a value at 3K. I probably wouldn't do it. For me, I'm simply looking at a spot like Aaron Wiggins and a position at small forward, power forward. Guard, I really, really, really don't want to be getting away from some of the chalk.
Amy, any Hawks that you guys are liking today? I mean, it's hard to not like Jalen Johnson on, like every slate to some extent. The bigger question is, what do you do with him relative to ownership? And I'm about even with the field with him. I'd be a little bit underweight to the field if it wasn't for me manipulating some of the exposures in the contest generator by changing the contest archetype settings. But Jalen Johnson is definitely somebody to be getting to. Let me see. Do I have any meaningful exposure to anybody else from Atlanta? I do not. He's the only one I have more than 10% of.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have Luke Kennard out to potentially have that just be more solidified minutes for, not that they're not going to play a ton. We have them projected for like 34, 36 minutes as is. Nikhil Alexander-Walker, Dyson Daniels. Not that they get huge rate bumps, but the minutes are king in that regard. So they still have Vit Krejci there. It's just kind of a little bit thin. I think if you made me roll something out, I bet the 11.5 rebounds plus assists. I really like that for Dyson Daniels. He's now at 12.5 basically everywhere. And that can be something that inflates and you potentially run into a double-double, or you just get, 18, 19 of those combined. But the usage, definitely not going to be there alongside alongside Jalen Johnson, alongside Okongwu, and now Porzingis off the bench. There's just not a ton of usage for him to spike a massive upside. So yeah, it's basically Jalen Johnson and scattered amounts of everybody else.
The next question we have here, it is from 182 Zinc. Dunn or Brown for shooting guard on FanDuel? I'll say Brown for now and then swap to Dunn if Harden gets ruled out.
All right, we got Reed starting. So that's a good feeling to know that we're just playing him in a bajillion lineups. I agree 100% with what you said. Honestly, the answer is probably both. I'm playing one FanDuel lineup here. I haven't finished it out yet. Just played a bunch of the main contests there to talk through it, and it's probably going to have both.
And the next question will come from Discord. It is from Ethan. Ethan7 wants to know, would you play Paul Reed in a single bullet in the big $5? Yes, I would. If I'm playing one lineup today, Paul Reed's in it. Yeah,
if I were playing 20 lineups, I think he'd be in all 20. As you get to the 150 again, I don't want to speak in absolutes, but I absolutely like Paul Reed today relative to any other piece of value on the slate.
Sniffs wants to know, could Grimes play big minutes again today like he's played recently? We've got him in for 30 minutes. A couple games ago, he played, 37? I don't think he gets that high, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 30, I think is reasonable, but that's not enough for him to show up in lineups for me.
Agreed.
Yeah. So actually it was 2 games ago. He played 38.5 minutes. So massive workload for him in that game. Now, why did he play so many minutes? Dominic Barlow fouled out of that game. So that was why we saw the extended minutes for him in that particular game.
Overtime too? Was it overtime?
So I was going to say, yeah. So two different games. One of them, Dominic Barlow fouled out. The other one went to overtime. And in the overtime game, Joel Embiid had 5 fouls. You had Paul George had 5 fouls in that game. So there was foul trouble there as well. So you had an overtime game with foul trouble. And then you had another game that just guys got into foul trouble and then actually fouled out in the case of Dominic Barlow. But yeah, Grimes will play in the neighborhood of 30 minutes. He's not unplayable, but he's not a good play either. Let's see what we got next. JT Mack. For the 20 max and the $100 single entry, what contest archetype do I think you should be using? For the $20 contest, I would use Marquee. For $100 single entry, I would lean towards the high stakes for that. Alucard, thoughts on Cat as a piece to get different off of Joel Embiid? Are you getting yourself to any Cat exposure, Eric?
No, not in a major way. Let me pull this up here.
I have 20% of them.
My last run, I had 8%, so that is not a lot. He's 18%. Center is really, really hard for me to go get him, but we'll say this. There's no Duran on the other side, even though Isaiah Stewart is a very good defender. Paul Reed, confirmed not great defender. And Karl Anthony Towns, 8,500. His prices come down in an earlier round. Maybe he'll come down swinging. Could be the number one with a bullet.
Could be. One of...
you don't get that reference.
I absolutely do. That was a seminal part of my middle school / high school music listening.
Oh man, you're more than I bargained for yet.
Let's see. What was for Cat? So one thing with Cat, he should have power forward eligibility at this point. By the way, him and Mitchell Robinson play alongside each other a decent amount. It sure should not Mitchell Robinson who's playing the power forward when those two guys are next to each other. Mark Williams available to play today as expected, but good to have that confirmation. So yeah, I mean, as far as Cat goes, more than anything, he's just reasonably priced at $8,500 and isn't pulling all that much ownership. So I don't have a crazy amount of him, but I got 20% when he's 17% on. I think he's in play for sure.
Yep.
Larson wants to know, is Aaron Wiggins a nuke option on FanDuel as well as DraftKings, Eric?
I'll pull it up here. I am playing the one lineup on FanDuel, so I haven't done as much over there today. Let me pull up Wiggins here. I doubt he ends up showing up in the lineup there. 4K. You know what? It's doable, but I would much rather have it be Inferno. Oh, what did I do there? I'd much rather have it be Inferno high upside goodness with Aaron Wiggins over on DraftKings. I have no idea what just happened there. It just cut me out for a second.
Yeah, I certainly don't know either. We've got a super chat from Morgan Wiper. Oh my God, do I love this question. He is saying it is a tough night for the exotic play of the night. What are we going to do with it? There's only one thing we can do with it, and it starts by playing this.
Going to financially recover from this.
All right, Eric, this is when you get a slate like this, lots of starters ruled out. This is where the people from the middle part of the country start to become a little bit more viable on DFS slates, which begs the question, who's the exotic play of the night?
I mean, there's really two options. One's somebody you know, one's somebody you probably didn't know. I just had to double check my brain there quick. I'll go Hunter Tyson. I'll leave the more obvious one to you. Hunter Tyson, 3K flat, gonna play. I mean, between him and Zeke Naji, call him 4 or 5, whatever. Just gonna be one of those 9 bodies that are gonna be out there for Denver. Hard not to say a flat 3K guy on a team with 9 dudes.
I like, so one sec, I got to look this up really quick, which really means just doing a Google image search.
Just type in the name and then see what pops up just to double check. So you're not insensitive, Greg. Just saying.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to go with Hunter Tyson as well. You look at all of potential blowout. That's when the exotics really come to shine, is in some of that garbage time. So I'm gonna go with Hunter Tyson, who I think is already going to be a part of the Denver rotation, but also is potentially going to be getting added opportunity should the game become a blowout. So Morgan, thank you very much for the super chat.
Tough times for the exotics going forward. No Jokic, no Şengün. They're just dropping like 5s. The only good exotics are gone.
Luka.
Yeah. I mean, but he's always on the night slate. They going to keep it? It's just, when are we going to get like a regular slate with Luka involved in it? It is what it is. Yesterday, I guess, I think I played him in that lineup that I made, but yeah, whatever. Didn't cash.
Did I already answer this, or is this just somebody else asking the same question? Truffles, any Hawks not named Jalen Johnson that I'm interested in? Not in a way that matters now.
No, correct.
How are you doing your lineups, by the way, Eric?
I'm okay. I mean, 11 minutes here. I got the last update. I'm running another sim in the background, just going to kind of compare the two and see what I get. But you know what I will get, no matter what? Paul Reed and Denver Nuggets. So here we are. Going to be a real fun slate.
Injury reports, by the way, we still have James Harden questionable. Just to update you guys on the Steven Adams news. We touched on this earlier, but he is good to go today. We also speculated that was going to be the case just because who's bigger, tougher, stronger than Steven Adams. So no concerns on that end. Really just, James Harden as the big one for the FanDuel slate. It doesn't matter for the DraftKings slate. But Eric and I both are under the assumption that James Harden ends up sitting today and not playing. Who is somebody that you are currently not getting yourself much exposure to that you are worried is just going to ruin your night?
Yeah, this RJ Barrett thing is pretty annoying. He should be able to play 30 plus minutes here again, but it's the positionality that scares the crap out of me. There's just so much of this punt value. And if he puts up 45, 50, I'm going to be very, very mad. It would look like I need to probably get a little bit of him before we're all said and done here, but small forward only and pulling 20%, that's just a tougher sell for me.
Yeah, I'm running another Sims update right here. So I don't know my exact final exposures, but I don't recall him being in a ton of lineups for me on the last run that I did. Let me see if I could recover that if I have it up. Oh, I do. I do have it open on a tab. I'm a little bit underweight to the field to Barrett on my last run. Nothing all that significant. I do prefer Scotty Barnes to RJ Barrett for what it's worth. Now, Scotty Barnes is also pulling more ownership, but I mean, we've seen ever since he's gone to playing the center position more, massive fantasy upside for Scotty Barnes. So we haven't talked much about him, but the way he's playing lately, he's a triple-double threat every time he's on the court, Eric. So Scotty Barnes at $8,300, he is not like a super high-end pay-up option or anything like that, but he's a secondary pay-up option at that price point who I do like getting overweight to the field too.
Yeah, he's showing up at a third of the field's lineups. I'm over that. Scotty Barnes, power forward, is kind of this spot that is very, very valuable with him and Jalen Johnson. So like forward and power forward, having both of them more than likely going to be the predominant chalk amongst people spending up. That's where I do like the Cade Cunningham kind of variation that we talked about, SGA a little bit in my life. And then, just like looking at the bottom, like this mid-range, Greg, you could like talk to me about a lot of these guys where like if anybody not named Peyton Watson in like the 6K range, like RJ Barrett, Jalen Williams, I think would be very bad for me as well. These 6, 7K guys, a little bit of Brandon Ingram, but nothing crazy. It would be bad news to have any of these guys pop on this slate.
It's certainly a stars and scrubs slate with the amount of value that's available from the Denver side of the game. And there aren't like crazy high-end spend-up guys. We don't have Jokic for today or anything like that, but we've got enough guys where we could fill out that salary, and the mid-range doesn't show up a ton for me either. Who is the pay-up option that you're landing on the most of overall?
I'm pulling it up here. I just got everything uploaded. It is Cade Cunningham in 56% of my lineups, Jalen Johnson in 54% of my lineups.
A lot of Cade.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It's a lot of Cade.
He's my nuke, so obviously I like Cade, but I think you might end up with more of them than I do, because that's just
a lot. It's a lot of Cade. I might have to trim this down a little bit. Scotty Barnes, 44%. Just talked about him. Just going through this. Got more Embiid this time around, which is nice, because I was worried about having like no Embiid. I had no Embiid when we started this show, like 0 Embiid. And now I'm back to like a normal amount of him. Part of that was just Paul Reed at center, and then wanting to take some of these shots on these Denver guys at center. Also, one guy that I almost made nuke of the night, Nikola Vucevic, should be playing a ton, no? Like, Jalen Smith is out. And this is one guy that should eat up more usage. You have Kobe White in, but 24 minutes, if that's going to be the limitation on him, without Giddey, without Jalen Smith, without Zach Collins, not only are there more minutes for him, but there's more usage available to Vucevic as well. And against Boston, you got to play a little bit of high variance basketball, knock down some threes. Probably doesn't go well a lot, but I think Vooch is kind of one of my favorite, like 6-7% type dudes on this slate.
We got another super chat from Eric's burner here, Mitch Williams. Eric, my guy, nothing else. He never asks a DFS related question. He just
loved me.
He just says the year is guy.
What do you think? I was typing before. I had to get it in. Yeah. Thank you, my guy. Thank you. 6-7. I don't understand that still. Nobody does.
We're very young Cool, hip, and with the times. M. Grizzly wants to know, how would we rank the Denver guys? How do you rank the Denver guys, Eric?
Well, I'll tell you here in a second. What do I got here? Back to the lineups here. I'm just uploading everything again as I fixed a couple of things. Denver guys. My first dude is Jalen Pickett and Julian Strother. They're 77 and 75%. Then Bruce Brown in 52% of lineups. Then Hunter Tyson in 36% of lineups. Yeah, there's my 1, 2, 3, 4.
So for me, I think the order is probably pretty similar. I've got my final run done right here. Pickett 1, Strother 2, Bruce Brown 3, Peyton Watson 4, and then a Hunter Tyson 5. So I guess that's where we're different. I've got more of Watson than you do because you had Tyson ahead of him, correct?
I did. I have 30% of Watson, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to end up with as much of him as you are.
And the next question here is from Einsteinium. Favorite Sixer to play on the other side of the Denver guys? That is Joel Embiid for me.
Embiid now, yeah. Thank God. I had none coming into this show. Tyrese Maxey, I boosted a little bit for what it's worth. And he was already showing up like around 12%. I gave a little bit more to him, just hoping this game stays close because it looks like in my lineups, that's what I'm hoping for.
Beezinho asks, is Brunson a good option? Do I have Brunson? I don't think I have. Yeah, I didn't really get to. I've got some of them, actually. I've got 19%. There's other, if you're just playing like one lineup or a handful of lineups, there's other guys I prefer to Jalen Brunson, but I wouldn't call him great. He just exists to me. He's one of many players that I'm about even with the field on.
He is a guy who exists in the world today.
And that is going to answer all the questions that we have in Discord as well as the super chats. So also want to ask you the other side of the question before never mind. Sorry. One more question just came in. So let's make sure we answer this. Yep. SP Sports tuning in late, assuming Harden sits, are there any priorities for the Clippers if that's the case? For sure. So priorities would be Kawhi Leonard and Chris Dunn for me. Anybody else you would add to the mix as high priorities from the Clippers?
No, those are your very clear-cut 2 priorities. If you made me play a third, it sounds insane. Again, I feel as though like I've actually had a pretty good gauge on like, hey, I'm going to make a calculated risk and kind of make a decision on this. There has to be some kind of playmaking elsewhere on this basketball team. Not saying that it's going to for sure happen, but like, I think Kobe Sanders at least like enters the realm of possible. I can't play John Collins 5,800. Just no chance the minutes are going to be there in a way that you want. My third guy will be James Harden. Like if James Harden ends up playing and we're wrong about that, wouldn't James Harden be your like third favorite guy?
Well, he said assuming Harden sits as part of the question.
Oh, well then it's Sanders, but I don't love it.
All right. So final question I want to ask before we get out of here. And if you guys haven't done it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you haven't done it yet, download the Tails app. And if you haven't done it, what are you waiting for at this point? But follow myself and Eric over on Tails, as well as all of the other guys that we have here. I'm posting free bets there every day. I've got my bankroll thread going. It's well over 3x at this point, Eric. One losing day since December. January wouldn't be all that impressive. One losing day since December 21st for the bankroll thread. And I post bets every single day. So it is, it's been crushing, been hitting parlays at a pretty good clip as well. So go follow me. Everything I post is free over on Tails. Eric has his package up there, but also posts a good amount of free content to Tails as well. Who is a player or a situation that you have a lot of exposure to that makes you uncomfortable, or you could see it potentially leading to your ruin heading into lock? Not necessarily you want to get off of it, but just something was like, boy, I could see where this could end up being a pitfall.
Oh, God. So amongst the Denver guys, Hunter Tyson could be very, very bad. I don't assume he starts, and he's 3K flat, which is nice to say, but doesn't mean that he has to play a bunch. Playing north of 40% of him feels a little heavy right now, but I've talked a little bit about ways where we can maybe get a little bit different here or there, looking in like other game environments and, just looking for like a nuclear type ceiling. And one of the things about OKC that's nice, it is a back-to-back. We know that Alex Caruso's minutes are going to get stripped away here for this one. So talked about some of the ins and outs of that at like very, very, very low ownership, but like everything's low owned that is not Denver and Paul Reed today. So amongst things that could really screw me up amongst the Denver pieces, Hunter Tyson feels the worst at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, it's just in general, if that Denver Philly game is just a massive one-sided blowout, that could be problematic. That could be an issue. If then all of a sudden you get, weird, unpredictable rotations for Denver because the game's lopsided, that wouldn't be great. Anyway, guys, thank you all very much for watching. If you haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Of course, we're going to be back here tomorrow. We've got the start of our NFL DFS playoff coverage. So we're going to have the first look from Ben and Lofty tomorrow, and then the normal NBA deep dive and live before lock. So see you guys there. Good luck with your lineups tonight. See you at the top.